Wagwan Two Tone Podcast.
Sturgeon, Leftover Crack, welcome to the Two Tone Podcast.
Hey, thank you.
You're a legendary figure in the New York scene. You're a musical talent. I read something that you formed Leftover Crack in 1998. That's about the same time the Pilfers started in 98.
Leftover Crack was a band that I kind of I formed because of the dissolution of Choking Victim. Me and the drummer didn't really get along that well. We were always fighting about songwriting stuff and just whatever. I mean, we weren't always fighting, but when it came to writing new stuff, he vetoed a bunch of my stuff. And at first, I would argue about it because I really wanted it to be part of our set. But then I realized that I'm definitely gonna have another band because I have so many songs that I like that he doesn't. So the Leftover songs, aka Leftover Crack.
Fire.
But by the way, I've always been a fan of Pilfers ever since the first time I saw y'all.
Yo, respect, brother. Respect.
Really, I mean, I've seen the Toasters, but Pilfers really did it for me, you know.
Thank you, man. Thank you. Yeah, you stood on your own 2 feet, brother.
Yeah. Well, I always try to because even if you're in a band full of people, they're all doing something else. They're definitely not paying attention to my balance.
What's one of the highlights when you just started out? Say like you just started out and you got your second or third show. What was the emotion? What was the energy that you felt during that time?
Are we talking Leftover Crack?
Yeah.
It was a 3-piece. I was playing guitar and singing as was Choking Victim. It wasn't very good. When it comes to guitar playing, I'm one of those guys. So what happened was I wasn't. So when I play, even to this day, I have to look at what I'm doing.
Okay.
I feel like, so if you're the singer and you're doing that, I feel like it's not a very good show, you know? Like, I mean, people still enjoy it, but I can't engage with the crowd. I can't really, look around and see the fans. I can't see the club we're in, so it all blurs together when it's Choking Victim. But Leftover Crack, I'd say our third show is probably in Tompkins Square Park. And there's to a lot of people. And I distinctly remember not playing guitar very well, but in my world, it's punk rock, and it's okay to not be amazing, especially if you bring some good songs, you know, and people and the energy's there, you know. If everybody's dancing and having a good time, then I feel like they're definitely forgiving any mistakes we're making, you know.
True.
It was great. It was great because also Choking Victim never got to tour. Like, we played a few shows out of town, but never more than, 2. Like, Philly, Boston. We went to Canada once and played 3 shows. I love those songs. I still do, the Choking Victim songs. And it was important for me to get to play some of them at least. Mm-hmm. So that was part of starting Leftover Crack, was to have a band that could tour and play these songs we never got to play for people live, you know? Beautiful. And the other part was, Civilized Revenge.
What's some of the places that you didn't play that you do play now that you wanted to play?
I mean, everywhere, really. I mean, everywhere besides Canada, Philly, and Boston, where we got to play a bunch in New York. I wanted to play everywhere. We played in New Jersey at the Pipeline a few times. That was cool. But really, the further away from town we got, the more exciting it was for me, and still is.
Yeah. So about overseas, maybe Hawaii, something like that? Hawaii, some exotic.
Yeah, well, Hawaii is like the most exotic. Hawaii was great. We went there once, maybe 15 years ago. But the most amazing place that we got to tour at was South Africa in, say, about 10 years ago. We did that.
How'd you get a South Africa gig?
You know, I have a friend in a band called Conquest for Death in the Bay Area. His name's Rob. And he usually works with Citizen Fish and Subhumans as their roadie and driver. And he was telling me one time about how his band went and toured Africa. And I was like, what? It was a metal band. And I feel like metal is like kind of the universal language of music. In metal, you can go anywhere. They love that, you know? Ska's great too. Ska's a little more international than punk. But
I don't know about that.
I think so. I think because here's why. I think there's a lot of people that punk's a little too heavy and metal's a little too heavy for them. But ska is like dance music, and there's people that don't even know it's called ska. They just like it. They sing these groups, right? That's why I
Cool.
think it's a little more international. But I can't remember who hooked us up, but we just I think there's the days of Facebook, and we would just reach out to people on the internet. I'd post a blog and say, hey, does anybody want us to tour somewhere interesting or exotic or whatever? And somebody reached out and said that they set up maybe Lagwagon or somebody down in South Africa. When we got there, we talked to the kids, and they said there'd been about like a handful, like 7 punk bands have been there. But 2 of them were on Fat Records, which we were on at the time. And, I wish I knew who did that because I would love to go back. but it was great. It was such a great experience. We had a week of shows, and
Uh-huh.
then like a couple members of the band stuck around an extra day in Cape Town. I was like, you guys are leaving after a day? Like, when are we getting back here? I stuck around for 3 months. I traveled all over, went to Botswana, and I just like kicked it everywhere. I loved it. It was just,
Wow.
but it was so exotic that it kind of broke my brain. It kind of made me depressed after, like, giraffes and all this crazy stuff on the other side of the world, literally. It's like Australia or something. I've been there 3 times. There's this weird euphoric high that I get being so far away and like in such a far away place, but it doesn't even touch being all the way down on like the other side of the other hemisphere,
Yeah. I think you just put out the energy that you're gonna go back to South Africa, bro.
You know what? I hope so. You know what? I realized that the second song on the record we had put out in 2015, which was our last record, we're working on a new one right now that'll come out this year. But I realized that during the first or second show that I mentioned a place called Isandlwana, which is in South Africa. It is where the Zulus defeated the British. Eventually they got run out and defeated, but it's kind of a famous battle that the white people with guns came there and were defeated. But they came back with force. They're pissed, of course. That's like literally the line in the song is about that. And I mentioned it's in Luana, and I asked the kids at the show. I was like, we're singing the song. I was like, after it's done, I was like, did you guys book us because I'm talking about South Africa? And they're like, no.
What got you into punk rock, Mr. Scott Sturgeon?
To be honest, it was it was the only music that I could play on guitar without like that sounded like a little bit like the bands I like that I was listening to. I couldn't play. My favorite band is the Beatles. To this day, there's chords I can't play all those chords. Crazy. And but I just wanted to play music that I loved. I was really into Reagan Youth, even though I just missed them as a touring band. And the Ramones weren't even punk. I mean, I was born in '76, and like by the time I was where I bought tapes at Tower Records on 4th Street, Ramones Mania came out, and I didn't think of it as a punk record. I thought of it as a good record. There's a lot of good songs crammed into this. Like there's 40 songs on that thing. I was learning as bringing songs to this guitar teacher that would he'd like suss them out that week and write a little tablature for me. And that's how that was the easiest stuff to learn, was like tuning as a punk rocker,
How'd you get involved with Epitap Records? And how?
Well, so we lived we're on the roof of T Squat right now. That's where I'm at. I've been living here for most of my life since I ran away from home at the age of 17. I had met the Bouncing Souls at ABC No Rio, to those bands, and I really liked that they had like very good pop sensibility to their punk songwriting, And Brian and Pete, the guitar player and bass player, would stick around for our sets, and we became fans of each other's bands, and they spent a lot of time in New York. And when Brian would come around, he'd find me, and we'd go drink 40s on St. Mark's and just pal around. And
Wow. Do you remember Coney Island High? Coney Island
I
High.
do. I tried to get booked there, and I bought a 7-inch. I was like, hey, we live down the block. This is my band choking victim. I could tell they like didn't. You can tell when they smelled me coming from down the hall. I could smell really bad, by the way. Most of us did that lived here, but the thing is that they weren't interested in my band, and there was always this excuse. Oh, you're not a ska band. You can't play a ska show. You're a punk band. You go to the punk show. You can't play the punk show. You're a ska band. That was used forever until everybody wised up about.
I'm intrigued with you. So you said you live in C Squat, and can you explain to the fans, it's a very legendary, what is it? It's just a building where punks hang out. I heard it's a very legendary building to live in.
Well, so I believe this building was opened up in 1989. There's another C Squat. I'm not getting into that, but there's another C Squat where a lot of hardcore guys lived at. Just because it's on Avenue C, but I was going to school in Chelsea. I went to high school for a bit, and after school I'd walk down. If you walk from the west side in Chelsea, you hit 12th Street or something, it cuts across all the way to 8th Street. I walked down, and I started meeting people, punks and stuff that were into music, and I started hanging out at San Loco on 2nd Avenue. The taco place across from the Orpheum Theater. Yeah, and I got to be good friends with a guy named John Dolan. I don't know if you guys are familiar with John Dolan. Basically, I got to be good friends with him. He was always at the counter, and I end up there after school, and he'd give me free tacos, and we just shoot the shit. And he's a drummer. And so, but before that, I met Popeye from a band called Banji. And he lived at the squad across the street called Fetus, which burnt down. And he moved here and asked me to play guitar. And that's how I started meeting squatters, because he was squatting. And I remember the first time following a squatter into my friend's building right next door to San Loco. And I was like, my eyes were watering. I couldn't believe that people smelled like that. But then, you get used to it, and then essentially I smelled like that for a long time. But by the time you start smelling like that, as long as I don't smell like pure shit, I can handle it. Or other people, or vomit. It's not great, But C Squat was a place where a lot of punks lived here. I would come here after school and I'd start playing music with people. They would be jamming in the basement, which was, I don't even know if there's electricity. There must have been. We had musical equipment, but no running water. The whole place was burnt up. It had been abandoned, I think, in the 70s when there was a fire, and a lot of the joists got damaged. And in the 80s and 90s, when a building would have a fire, even in one apartment, a lot of times they would evict the whole building anyways, even if it was off stable. And a lot of this neighborhood was burnt down by the landlords to get some. So this neighborhood started being noticed by punks, I'd say as early as punk rock began, because CBGB ain't far from here. It was, if people weren't paying like $100, $200 a month rent to stay on Avenue A or something, if they even have less money, they would come down and actually open a building and maybe kick out all the, drug users, which, I'm not necessarily for that. I have interesting politics when it comes to drugs, but, there's a lot of buildings here that nobody was living in, and they weren't falling down. They were, livable. They didn't have windows a lot, and they were freezing. But there's ways of powering electricity and whatnot, and punk bands started coming. Not a lot at first, but legendary ones. I mean, there was a show here once before I ever even knew this place existed, which was Neurosis, MDC, and a version of Operation Ivy. They were MDC's roadies, Lint at the time, Tim Armstrong, and I think the bass player.
Wait,
And they
MDC was with Tim?
Tim was MDC's roadie, and a
Okay,
couple other guys from Up Ivy.
Millions of dead cops, right?
Yeah, millions of dead cops. Yeah,
Okay.
who's still around too, and I'm friends with at this point.
I heard that you did a track with the singer of Operation Ivy. Is that true?
Yeah, on the last record we did a song.
Wow.
That was you know, it's even more. I think that's even more spectacular because oddly enough, that songs are a certain key. That song, me and Jesse Michaels have the same range, right? And it's slightly out of both our ranges, so we never play it. But we got Jesse to do a video for it, and when we went to do the video, it was in LA at this DIY venue. And I lied. I said, we know every Operation Ivy song. If you want us to play any of them, we'd love to play them. And like he's like wasn't doing that. He wasn't even really singing at the time. And he was like, you know, I guess I could play Unity and
Wow.
and Sound System. And I was like, oh, cool, perfect. We'll see you. You know, come to practice. Can we meet us at practice? And I was like, I was like, guys, we gotta learn these 2 songs really fast. I mean, we knew the songs, but we didn't know how to play them. Luckily, they were like practically the same. They're almost the same songs to each other. You wouldn't know it, and they're almost the same song as a song of ours called "Born to Die." And so you know, and we were already like skilled in ska punk, you know, so it wasn't difficult to learn.
Sure.
And we all knew the songs. I mean, who doesn't know that record? I really wonder. You know?
I feel like that's the Bible of punk ska, the Operation Ivy.
Yeah,
Definitely.
absolutely.
I think there's only a few records that are in the punk world that I feel like everybody knows. Like Gorilla Biscuits, Start Today, Op Ivy, Energy, and like maybe one of those Misfits records or Reagan Youth Volume 1, you know, stuff like that is kind of indelible, you know?
How did you get in contact with Jesse from Operation Ivy? Like, you ran into him? Or?
No, my friend, I have a friend who actually I haven't talked to in 10 years. I just talked to him a few hours ago today because we're going to be around. We're playing in Oakland, and he lives there. His name's Roberto Miguel, or Miguel from Oakland, and he's also a musician. I met him walking around New York City, and he was with a couple of like young kids that obviously hadn't been traveling for long. And they seemed cool. They seemed like nice people, and we walked around and kicked it. And he became a really good friend of mine. And he's one of those guys like he's like the mayor of Oakland, you know, like or back in the day, back 10 years ago he was, 15 years ago. He's one of those guys you walk down the street and you can't get half a block or a quarter of a block without stopping. You got to talk to somebody you haven't seen in a long time. He knows everybody. So he introduced me. First, he introduced me to Boots Riley from the Coup, who guested on the Stuff Like Hamsters record, which was honestly, if I had to pick one rapper besides Terrace One, it'd probably be Boots because I feel like he shares the same politics that I do, you know. But then he introduced me to Jesse Michaels. I remember Boots had just finished the last Coup record that came out, and he wanted to play it for us, and he had been introduced to Jesse, so we all went to a movie in Oakland and then went over to Jesse's house after and played him. We heard the new Coup record. It's really good. And you know, just that kind of stuff, just hanging out and meeting people. Like, especially when you have like a friend that is connected to everybody. I'm like the opposite. I walk down the street, people avoid me. I have friends for 10 years and then they stab me in the back for no reason. I'm like, okay. Good while it lasts. No, but not exactly. But you know what I'm saying? Like, I do my thing on stage, but in the real world, I'm not like a popular guy, I gotta say.
Are you playing Gilman Street in Oakland?
We're not on. We haven't in a while, but every time we go play in California, I always want to play there, and it's always like, you know, it's a Wednesday. They don't do shows. They really do shows on the weekend. I mean, they'll do shows on a Wednesday, but I've gotten to play there several times, and that honestly was like a dream come true. Because that's the first place I've seen a real DIY punk show. I saw since the fish show whatever year the first Lollapalooza was. Because my dad was living in Marin County. We were like, I only saw a week a year. And I went to Lollapalooza, met some kids. They took me to Gilman Street. And it was, and I got to see Scissor Fish, which is the first time I ever skanked in my life. And the rest is history in a way, you know? One thing I want to mention about Jesse Michaels is we actually, when we did this video, we got to play a show. And we got to play those 2 songs, those 2 Up Ivy songs with them. And it was just, it's like, there's only a few points in my career that are just like, nothing beats this. There's never going to be anything that beats what's happening right now. So it's one of those things of playing those songs with Jesse Michaels.
Wow, that's big.
So you're going on tour now, right? You're on your way out to go on tour now?
Yeah, we're going, we just finished filming a video yesterday. We did the same thing. We actually played in Queens and got a bunch of kids to come out so we could film a video for our new song. We're heading out to Denver or Fort Collins first on the 24th, I believe, April, and then doing a bunch of stuff. Yeah. You guys mind if I smoke a cigarette?
I'm not going to get the secondhand smoke over here.
You know, this is actually interesting. You mentioned Coney Island High, and I could never get us booked there, but the first time, and really the main time we ever played there, we played one other show, I think, but the time we played there was a Hellcat showcase. The only band not on Hellcat was Pilfers, Choking Victim, Pilfers, Slackers, and Dropkick Murphys, I believe.
Whoa.
And that was a great show. And that was really exciting for me to play with you guys, actually. You guys were my favorite band on that bill.
That's probably the first time we played there. And then we started playing Tuesday nights. Yeah, we started playing there Tuesday night.
And we got the chance to play these clubs. We'd pack a lot of them because people knew us, but promoters didn't know us. So and they never promised us anything. We just wanted to play. So, you know, even if a bunch of people came here to see us, we get $100, $200, even if there's like, 400 there.
Exactly. It's like, oh, these kids don't need this money.
I like to think that one of the reasons we got to play that show is because you begged to get to play Coney Island High, and they're like, all right, well, we're gonna do this Hellcat thing, and we'll throw Pilfers on it, and by default we got to be on it too. It's like,
Beautiful.
apparently there's a lot of famous musicians at that show that I did not see any of. I heard there's like Joey Ramone was there, and like and all these people were there. I didn't see any of them. Their Beastie Boys were there. Did not see them.
Wow.
Wait, Beastie Boys were at that show?
I heard. That's what I heard.
Wow.
I heard didn't you work with the Beasties? Or no?
No, we worked with the drummer Amory, he was in Suicidal Tendencies. If you look at the cover of Suicidal Tendencies where they're hanging upside down, the first record, he's the guy that's like the obviously white guy. That's him. That's Amory. And he was like, he only is on that record, but he like kind of invented this crossover drumming thing where it's like double kick and like hardcore metal with punk. Like him and the drummer from DRI and Dave Lombardo from Slayer. But we were recording the first Leftover Crack 7-inch, and Brad Logan, who was sent to New York from F minus, who you maybe met too because he was at that show also. He was the first in the opening band. He was sent by Tim. He lived with Tim Armstrong to like basically suss us out. Like they knew the Wicks was in New York, I think. Like she knew Slackers. She knew whoever else. Yeah, Wicks. And she so like Tim trusted her and trusted her judgment on bands, but nobody knew us. Like all they knew is that we were crusties, we were squatters. Like we lived in an abandoned building, and we were dirty and smelly. And so, but I was in. This goes back to your earlier question. I never fully answered. The Bouncing Souls first they were BYO Records, and they were trying to get us signed to BYO. I remember I had found one of those this dialers. It makes this beeping sound that's the sound of a quarter in a payphone.
Yeah. Oh, the small square thing.
Yeah.
I used to use that to make phone calls.
Right, of course. I found one at a show. I didn't know what it was, and I was like, "Oh, that's a dialer." So I remember I was calling Sean Stern from BYO Records and the Youth Brigade from. I had to go to the Avenue A to Keyfood on Avenue A because there was only some phones didn't work like that. That was the closest phone that worked.
Yeah.
So I was in like the doorway of the Keyfood calling him. I called him a few times, but ultimately it didn't work out. Like that didn't happen. But then all of a sudden I'm in Oakland. You know, I traveled a lot. I was riding freight trains and just I didn't have anything going on when the band wasn't playing shows, which we rarely had shows. I would just, you know, go to New Orleans or go to the West Coast. And I was heading into SF from Oakland over by the Ashby BART train. I look over and I see the Bouncing Souls on their like tour truck thing. And they're like on top of it. And I'm like, we're at a red light. And I'm like, I gotta go. Those are my friends. I was traveling by myself and I didn't really know the guys I was with. They're a bunch of metal guys, like crusty metal dudes. And I jumped out and went over there, and those kids never talked to me again. And they kind of hated me because that's where Tim lived, apparently. And they were on MTV, so they were all very, very judgmental against those guys. And it made me look bad, but was it worth it, you know? I went and hung out with them. I had the new 7-inch that I just got in the mail from John Dolan, my friend. And I gave it to Brian, who immediately gave it to Tim, and I think they listened to it in his bedroom, and Tim wanted to write songs with me all of a sudden. And I politely declined because at the time I didn't write songs with other people. And I was like, I don't do that. I'm not, you know, like, I wasn't trying to be a dick, but I was like, and then I thought that was the end of it. You know, in retrospect, if I had done that, I wouldn't be, like, to this day, right? But he ended up, asking to sign us, and we're like, yes, we will do that. We have no money, no prospects, and we'd love to put a record out. Oh, and all like Pete and Brian from the Bouncing Souls, really, I can't thank them enough because they really went to people go to bat for people. We had no connection to anybody, no nepotism, no bands that were popular that we were friends with when we were kids. We just knew those guys. And they just really liked us. And yeah, it's really cool of them.
Real Big Fish came along and they brought us in. Like
ska with like hardcore and whatever, you know? And like, I remember you guys had those spinning things that had the band name. I've never seen that before. Or since. Yeah. But I was like, I just, there's some things that are inexplicable, but
what are your future plans for Leftover Crack? Like, what's going on in the future for you guys? What do you plan to do? New albums, new tours, etc.
So we just did real quick. Let me say that a lot didn't one of the reasons nothing happened in the last 10 years was COVID, and I also don't. It took me 10 years to put out the last record, or our band Leftover Crack to put out the last record we put out. I don't like releasing a record that has a couple of good songs and a bunch of filler. I like every song to be good.
Yeah, that sounds familiar.
That's why there's no record. That's exactly right. Exactly right.
Well, so I've been trying to work with this guy that I thought was our manager that had our best interest, but I think he was sabotaging us full time. And I started getting really frustrated with recording engineers. Because I've been, I was using GarageBand a bit, and I was like, there's no way this stuff is that complicated. This guitar player that we got now for Leftover Crack, his name's John Yee. He's a professor at NYU. He actually recorded with the same guy that I've been trying to record with that has all these songs we've been working on, and had a terrible experience also. So he bought Pro Tools, and he just showed me, we just started working on it, and we're finishing our record ourselves. We got the drums recorded and the bass and everything, and we're really focusing on vocals and guitars. But we just did the song that we did a video for, and then had Pete from Bouncing Souls mix it. and it sounds great. It sounds as good as anything we've ever done. Spell's broken. Like, we don't need to go to a fancy studio and pay hundreds of dollars. I mean, I still trust people to record the drums. Someone to record the drums good, maybe too, but I feel like guitars and vocals, those can be done at home in the studio if you have the right mics and stuff, you know? But that being said, we are like approaching completion of this record, and we're just putting out a 7-inch with 2 songs on it. One of them is from the sessions of the last record. That's called Brad Sabbath, written by me and Brad Logan, who's not in the band anymore, but it was recorded at Motor Studios, which was Fat Records, Fat Mike Studio in SF. And me and my wife Tibby, who's now also singing in Leftover Crack, we tracked the vocals on it last winter, and we just went to Mexico a month ago for 10 days and tracked a bunch of vocals and guitars and finished a bunch of songs, including the one we got for the 7-inch. After this interview's done, I'll text you guys the new 7-inch, like the files if you guys want to check it out. It's coming out on Thursday, so.
Oh,
And then the
congrats, man.
video maybe on Friday, hopefully. Yeah, no, I'm so excited about it because we tried doing one song with the guy that we were working with for a long time, and it's a good song. And we had to mix it, and it didn't sound good. And you know, when a song sounds better that I recorded on my phone than it does after going to a real studio and recording it, then there's a problem. This happens a lot. So
Yeah, I know.
we released it anyways because we had a video done for it, and it kind of, you know, we're gonna re-record and remix and re-release the song on our full length, which I hope to have out by October, and that's volume 4 for us.
Congrats,
Yeah,
man.
and you know, touring, of course. Usually when you know, we're touring more and more, but when there's a new release on the horizon, and if it's good, we usually get asked to do some festivals and usually, hopefully, there's a little bump in the pay and all that jazz, you know, and I'm hopeful. I'm looking forward to things. I think that that the trajectory is back to where it should be after like a 5-year hiatus, you know.
Because you know your fans are waiting to see you, brother.
Yeah, I mean, and I just yeah, I'm just happy to be able to play shows and I've always felt that way. I've always felt happy just to be able to play my songs or play songs with a band, their songs, my songs, and like have people care about it and be able to enjoy it and get fed and maybe pay for gas and vehicle and whatnot. That's all I care about is that, you know, and spreading politics of the day, you know, of back against all the evil people that are ruining things for everybody, you know. And thank you for having me here because like things like this are always fun for me to talk to people. I've traditionally not been asked to do interviews much in bands for, you know, I've been playing in punk bands for 30 years, over 30 years. We were in Hellcat, we were in Fat Records. The label that did the most for us was Alternative Tentacles, you know, which made me suspicious afterwards of why isn't anybody else, you know, a lot of people didn't even know that we were in Fat Records. The ex-wife of Fat Mike really didn't like our band, so he made sure not to push our records, and there's all kinds of subtle sabotage that, you know, but also, you know, at the end of the day, it's like, it's not all sabotage, it's also like, it's hard to reach people, you know? It's hard to get people to care about your song or your band, you know? And all I can do is, you know, do songs and say things and play songs that I love. And if I have that on record or whatever, I can play it. It's like, nothing else really matters.
I think you're doing an excellent job, and you're speaking for the people, man. So that in itself, man, is beautiful. That's what we're supposed to be doing.
I try.
You know?
I mean, I speak for myself, but I also I try to speak out especially when I see that people aren't being represented, you know? And that happens a lot. You know, even in anarchist punk, which I'm an anarchist, in this activist world, there are a lot of people being ignored. There's like, the thing of the day or whatever, and everybody focuses on this one thing, and it's my intention to focus on these ignored. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Because these other guys got it covered, right? So I don't need to sing about the same thing they do. Try to be original and like speak things that aren't being said. It's so important.
Absolutely right.
I mean, my main like theme right now, if I get my way, is to defeat cancel culture. I think it's dying. The thing about cancel culture, swan song, it's the same as it's the first thing they say. It's a script repeated and repeated by hive-minded people that might
Yeah.
have good intentions, but they're being guided by abusers, and they're being. I think the left wing was duped by the right wing into imploding, and it wasn't very hard. Nickelodeon, and
That's
I
right.
heard this these two all worlds.
All right, so we look forward to the Leftover Crack Pilfers collab. One stipulation: you have to
What's
wear
that?
that same suit. You gotta wear that suit, bro.
This suit?
Every time you hang out with us, you gotta wear a suit and tie, dude.
Oh, I will. I will. I don't think you understand that. I've been doing this for quite a while. I realize that aging crusty. It's not gonna look so good, especially when I become incontinent. So I figured, I could be like the classy, like weird, like the Georgia salesman that like only have one suit, and it's a little dirty, or like the hobos wear a suit, that was like the when I'm like, 200 years old. Still welcome at Dracula's castle, whatever. You won't catch me without a suit.
All right, beautiful. I may wear one too then.
Yeah, we should all wear suits if we're all getting.
You know, I've never worn a suit to a show, but I might
Oh my
put
God,
on one.
Rude Boy, you should be Rude Boy style.
I know.
Yeah, man.
I've yet
Good
to put one
luck, man.
on.
You know what? It people appreciate it. They like
Yeah,
that,
they
like,
do.
and especially it's like, you know what? You know who did it that I really appreciated was Hepcat. Like rest in peace, Greg Lee, and that's who was that was my friend in the band, was Greg. I wanted to do Under Pressure by Queen, David Bowie. He's in LA, and like those guys really didn't tour a lot. They just really, I know that the one guy, Alex, had a
Alex.
career as an actor that kind of like dug
Yeah.
into their touring and stuff. But man, I forgot. You forget that the songs, like I don't like I haven't. I think my all my CDs got destroyed a while ago, so I need to get some Pilfered stuff again. But I know once I put it on, I'm like, yes, these songs.
Yes. Yes.
I remember this stuff, and then it's like you're like, oh fuck, I can't remember. I can't believe that I haven't listened to or seen this band
Yeah.
in 20 years or
Yeah.
something. So I
Yeah.
look forward to.
I got you, brother. He'll make it happen. Jeff will make it happen.
We're gonna make it happen. I promise you. By
Beautiful.
October, we're doing this.
Okay. Okay.
Well, thank you
Straight.
for coming on the Two Tone podcast, my friend.
Yeah. Thank you. And I heard that you're gonna have my wife on at some point. She has some crazy stories.
Okay.
She's been around a long time in the scene, the punk scene and stuff, and she definitely is like. You think that I lived a weird life or crazy life? Her stuff takes the cake, man. I'm always like, and she's also way punkier than I am. And she always has been somehow. Ever since she was a little kid, and she was like a ballerina in Long Island, and she was punk. She told me stories.
Can you say she's more punk than me?
You want me to say her name?
No, you got to say she's more punk than me.
Oh, she's more punk than me. TBX is way more punk than I am.